Meeting to order, May 1st, 6 p.m., Oconee County Council. As usual, we will start with the public comment session. And Mr. Gardner, you're up first.
All right, my name's John Red Gardner. I live in the county, and fortunately, I'm not as much of a landlord as I used to be. Gotten rid of most of them. There's a few things I'd like to mention. I want to thank Mr. Mulder and Mr. Root for the great financial presentation you gave 2 weeks ago. Wonderful job. You seem like you guys are right on top of it. I had all the questions answered and it seemed good. What I'm primarily here about is the drug situation and the vermin that are living on Owens Road, particularly at the entrance to the Mill Hill, where I understand the county is trying to get some sort of federal grant to improve that area. And I think the first place to start would be great up there at 1803, 1805, and 1806 Owens Road. There's people living there that have been living in those houses for up to 2 years without electricity or water and sewer, which I understand is an ordinance violation. So please enforce the ordinances. There's been a knifing there recently, and just today they were washing blood off the porch of one of the places where there's a big fight over there. Somebody got whacked with a baseball bat, and these people don't even live there. And I know this because I sold a piece of property on Owens Road to this gentleman right here and his wife. They're scared to death to live there with all the drug dealing going on. Constant cars pulling up all times of night. Something gets handed through a window, and boom, the people are gone. I got to wonder, maybe the police are, trying to get a big Operation Infinity thing going. God, I hope so. And I've talked to Sheriff Crenshaw. He seems like he's on top. His sergeant, who's in charge of narcotics, is going to do something about it. They can't tell me what, but they're going to do something. But I hope you all stay on top of this, because if you want to improve the neighborhood, you got to get rid of some of that vermin and subhumans that are living up there, and particularly at 1803, 1805, and 1806 Owens Road. Now, I talked to CJ over at City of Seneca today, because that is in the city of Seneca. 1803 has not had any power or water or sewer since 2012. 1806 hasn't had it since 2014. And the property manager, Lisa Ancona, who I kind of think is derelict in her duty because she doesn't even know whether she's got the place rented half the time, that water and sewer has been off since March. Now, I would just ask you all, please try and enforce the codes that are going on up there. Now, moving along down the road a little further. Owens Road, Eddie Owens. I want to thank Mr. Root. For 2 years, I tried to get Mr. Robinson to do something about the tax sale. It belongs to Dink Owens and his son, Eddie Owens. For years and years, they had a hard time doing something about it. They'd pull the property off tax sale at the screamy last minute because they didn't have a death certificate from DHEC because DHEC didn't want to give it up. Thank you, Mr. Root, for getting that taken care of. I hope the taxes get paid, and I hope I can buy that property and clean that street up, because I already own 2 houses next to Mr. Owens, and I'd love to see him living somewhere else. Excuse me if I get a little spooled up, okay? Mm-hmm. Another little item here. There's an accident on 123 the other day, right dead in front of my house where my little eyesore along the road is. My motorcycle shop, my boats, and my landscape timbers and all that stuff. But it's commercial. It's not a resident. I got nobody around me, and I'm moving soon, okay? Praise the Lord. Getting off that traffic. Car flips and rolls over there. Fire truck comes rolling up. 5 minutes later, another fire truck comes rolling up. 2 big fire trucks blocking the traffic out there. They only needed 1 fire truck because the other guys are standing around texting for the whole time the accident was going on. So why do we need another fire truck if you got 2 at a scene and you really only need 1? I kind of got to wonder about that, and that goes back to the financial committee. Maybe you could really save on a fire truck, or get Corinth to give up one of theirs since they're only using half of what they got. All right, okay. You got 100 new beds over at the jailhouse here, right, guys? New beds? Yes. Silson, is that correct? Yes?
Mr. Gardner.
Yeah.
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Put some more people in them beds, would you guys? Okay? You think you can handle that? I mean, excuse me for getting spooled up. I'm just a damn Yankee. What do I know? Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Bill Brule.
Council members, my name is Bill Brule. I'm a resident of Seneca, and I want to build a bridge between ideas presented in public comment session last week and my own ideas. A citizen described connections he sees from communism to socialism to progressive thinking in our politics. I won't dispute him or his point of view. I'm a natural-born liberal and progressive kind of guy. I welcome anybody who feels the way that citizen feels. I'd like to shake his hand. I see him as a fellow human being, a good man, a family man, who works hard and deals with difficult problems. I relate to all that because as human beings, Americans, and Oconee residents, we got a lot in common. I respect him. I'm confident he can respect me on the same terms. I think that's possible. I believe we could find solutions with that respect and with honesty by sitting together, facing specific issues, working hard toward resolutions. American democracy for me is like a coin. Coins need two sides that are dependent on each other. Democracy, like the coin, works hand in hand, face to face, dealing with problems with honesty and respect. It's called good debate, and we need good debate to resolve problems and succeed. Our country is being broken today, shattered by a polarization that preaches hatred and division from sea to shining sea, and it's bad stuff. Disrespect doesn't solve problems. It engenders violence as we verbally hammer each other, model hatred for our children, and undermine this society. I know my recommendation is difficult. I also know it works and has since Continental Congress resolved conflicting ideas into this nation in 1789, inventing the way a successful society works. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Walker?
My name is Mike Walker. We recently moved down to Seneca. My wife is from Boston and I'm out of Virginia. Great little town, we thought we'd give it a shot. The biggest problem we have had, and I'm not going to get quite as passionate as Red is, he touched on most of the situations, but one thing he didn't touch on is we have children that live in the house on one side of us, children across the street. Every other morning, when my wife lets the dogs out, there's somebody in the backyard urinating. In the house beside us and the house across the street. Temperature gets up, what's that going to smell like? And like you said, this morning I walked out and they're washing blood out the front of the house. Don't know if anything was called in on that. I have no idea what happened. Maybe they skinned a squirrel. But it's just, like you said, all hours of the night. I couldn't even back out of my driveway today because a non-resident is standing in the road looking at me and won't move. This happens many times. The cars are parked in front of the driveway when my wife comes home. She can't get in the driveway. She has to drive through the yard. And it's just constant traffic, different people every day. Don't know who they are, don't know who owns the houses. Actually, we did find out one house. The guy lives there, but apparently is scared to death of the people that are living with him. The guy that owned the house next to us on the other side, he disappeared 6-8 months ago. Haven't seen hide nor hair of him. He chained up all his gates, boarded up his house. Half the time they go through a window to get in the house. I don't know if I should call the law or not because they've been there for 6-7 months. Don't know what's going on. They haven't bothered us until yesterday. Somebody came and opened a package that was delivered to our house, left it on the porch, went and told my neighbor that we're friends with what was in that package. Not really sure how to handle any of this, just reiterating what Red had to say, and we don't want to leave. We like the area. We're learning lots of stuff about it, and another great little town to live in. So that's what we deal with on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Can I have
Any-
to take her home, I'm sorry. She's 9 months pregnant.
Any council member comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to say to Mr. Gardner, and sorry I didn't catch your name, but
Mr. Walker?
Mr. Walker, you know, I'm well aware, and I know the sheriff's well aware, and his team well aware of the issues over there. And we're working on it. We're doing what we can, and I'm sorry that it is as bad as it is. Hopefully, some of the efforts that we're working on to clean up that community will show some results soon, but it didn't get that way overnight, and it's not going to get fixed overnight either. But thank you for coming up here and letting us know, and I'm truly sorry that you're dealing with that. So you shouldn't have to. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes,
Go ahead.
they live in a house with no sewer and water, can't we, it's in the county, and that's a code violation, can't we,
I wrote them down and take a look into it. Sorry, I wrote them down so we could take a look at it. We were actually dealing with this same kind of issue at another location in the county. We actually had tried to get a warrant to get into the house to make notice of those code violations. We're unable to get a warrant on a civil matter like this, if I remember correctly, if I'm stating that correctly. So we're still working through that issue, but we'll certainly add this one to the list and see what we can do to make some site visits and see if we can take care of it from the code-related standpoint.
we, Mr. Root and I talked, last week about, you know, the litter in the house, also renting he and I touched on renting substandard housing. And this, so if we were successful, then that will, David, that'd be a criminal matter then, right? When we talked about substandard housing, people renting it with no water and like.
Generally, we're not talking about a criminal matter there. As far as the county's concerned, we're talking about code enforcement, either through building codes or through the International Property Maintenance Code, perhaps. And so those are items that we can enforce if we have the manpower to do so. As far as the other activities that are going on there that kind of bleed over into and relate to perhaps the less than ideal housing, the substandard housing, there's a number of names for it, but those things that usually go along with that type of housing, those fall into the sheriff's bailiwick. And of course, we don't have control over his office, but I know he's doing a good job.
Hell, it's no sewer and water, it's a health problem.
Those aspects, yes, but those are aspects that we can enforce from a code enforcement aspect, correct? I was just talking about things that go along with it that Mr. Gardner and Mr. Walker had spoken to, the potential drug use, trespass, things of that nature.
Well, at least one thing's good to come out, they had a good audience. Here's the sheriff and all his guys. So that's one good thing.
They've been heard.
Any other council member comments? Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root, please.
I'll just start off thanking you for this day made. Our ability to move and have interactions with one another. Breathe, see, walk, love, and be good neighbors. A lot of ills that beset this country, that beset this county, that we need your help resolving, giving staff and giving council wisdom to come up with solutions. Possible way that we all come together together. Divisiveness wouldn't be what governs, but that it would be something that different ideas best ideas. So this would be your meeting.
Mr. Davis, the pledge, please.
Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need to approve the minutes from April 24th.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? There were a few corrections that I already got together with Ms. Smith on, and so she corrected them and presented you all with the corrected copies, so those corrections were taken care of. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Mulder, please.
You have no agenda today, Madam Chair. Congratulations.
There's nothing there.
We have a very light agenda this evening. We do have the honor of approving a proclamation for peace officers Memorial Day. They're well represented here this evening, so we're very honored to have that before you for your consideration tonight. The next item is all the way down to action items. Discussion and consideration of a request. The council provide the letter in support of the Farrick Youth Center recreation boundaries around the Farrick Elementary School, which I believe we have a draft letter for your consideration tonight. We do have one board and commission appointment, and I'm excited to see an application on my table, so hopefully we can get to that and fill that seat. And then committee reports and executive session. Would also like to, if I could, ask you to amend the agenda to add a second item for executive session for the discussion related to the administrator's personnel and employment contract.
Madam Chair, motion to amend the agenda to add an executive session item as stated.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so proclamation 2018-02 for Peace Officers Memorial Day. Would you please read it?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
State of South Carolina, Oconee County Proclamation P 2018-02, a proclamation for Peace Officers Memorial Day, whereas the Congress and the President of the United States have designed May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and whereas the members of the law enforcement agencies of Oconee County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement officers, and that law enforcement officers recognize their duty to serve the people of this community by protecting them against violence and disorder. And whereas the law enforcement officers of Oconee County unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Oconee County directs that all flags on county buildings be flown at half-staff on May 15th, 2018 in recognition of Peace Officers Memorial Day and in memory of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in their performance of duty, to offer appreciation to the retired officers for their service to the law enforcement profession, and to honor those law enforcement officers presently serving the community. Approved and adopted this first day of May 2018. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Proclamation P 2018-02.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Would you like to present it, please? Thank you.
On behalf of the men and women at the sheriff's office, this is just a sampling. Obviously, everyone couldn't be here tonight, but thank you, County Council, for your support of law enforcement and public safety. You've realized over the years that this is a very important function of local government, is protecting our citizens, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will excuse them to get back to work. Some are getting off, some are coming up.
Okay, moving on. We have no public hearings today, no third readings, no second readings, no first readings, no other resolutions. Discussion regarding action items. Consideration of a request by FOYC that council provide a letter in support of their pursuit of recreation boundaries around Fair Oak Elementary School. You should have all received a copy of that letter. If you have a chance, haven't had a chance to read it, go ahead and take a look at it.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Not to make you all multitask, as I don't believe in it, but Ms. Smith is going to flash that letter up there in a moment. But just for the background, y'all charged me to both talk to the folks at Fair Oak Youth Center and then follow up with SCAP, South Carolina Athletic Program, which is part of South Carolina Recreation Athletic Program. I forget the exact acronym, but in any event, I did both. Met with the folks, Ms. Swain and others from Fair Oak Youth Center, along with yourself and Mr. Hart were present at the meeting, discussed their concerns, their position, and to boil it down, they want essentially a seat at the table with the municipalities as far as recreation goes, the ability for the children in their area to play. We noted that it's a matter of relationship building and with the municipalities, and they are working on that. Outline of an agreement was presented, and I think they're trying to flesh out the terms of such an agreement with the municipalities. Nonetheless, they being the Fair Oak Youth Center, still believe they need to have boundaries that are recognized. They want those boundaries to be coterminous with or with essentially mirror the boundaries of the Fair Oak Elementary School attendance area. So that was the takeaway, the essence of that meeting. The follow-up I had was with Sherry Anthony with SCAP. She had spoken, I think I was about the 25th person I think that she spoke with on this issue, so she was pretty well ready for my call. And she led off with the comment that, hey, we do not police boundaries. We do not make the boundaries. The governmental or existing recreational entities within a jurisdiction make those boundaries. So for her position as president of SCAP, the municipalities have made the boundaries for Oconee County, and they recognize those. Those boundaries are only recognized for SCAP's purposes for postseason play, meaning all-star tournaments, things of that nature. She said during the regular season, SCAP leagues, or members of SCAP can play whomever they want to play, whether that league or that program or team or whomever is a SCAP program or not. So it doesn't preclude Fair Oak from playing, based on what she said, if they don't have any boundary. Written within the SCAP policy that a member cannot be admitted becoming a new member, if their boundaries would be within an existing boundary of a municipality or something of that nature, which is the situation that Fair Oak is presented with now. SCAP is saying boundaries are all full, can't really give you a membership for the All-Stars, for the tournaments, and it all kind of bleeds together without there being someone giving away boundaries or y'all getting together and working it out. And she underscored the same thing we talked about when we met, that it's a relationship thing, and she just really said, hey, I urge the Fair Oak Youth Center folks to kind of hat in hand and with humility go and work with the municipalities as best they can to forge a relationship. Or reforge a relationship. I don't know the full history of it. That was the essential takeaway from that. I told her, well, the second part was, what if we sent a letter saying the county supports Fair Oak Youth Center having boundaries consistent with the Fair Oak Elementary School? What would happen on that? She said, well, we're having a meeting on May the 9th, and that we would consider that. She couldn't say what would happen on that. She said she's the president, the board would take it under consideration, go ahead and send it. It wasn't necessarily consistent with what she had said before about them not policing the boundaries or establishing the boundaries, but I get the feel that some of this is loose and by custom, so they have to evaluate it and get all their heads together. So with that, I drafted the text of a letter, kept it pretty simple if Ms. Smith could put it up.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table this as they continue to work together. I know they had a meeting last Wednesday, and I know there was, I haven't seen the actual paperwork that was given, and I know they're working on a few things and working on mending that relationship, but based on my conversations with other rec directors as well as Fair Oak Youth Center, they are continuing to work on a partnership together to include them in what they do.
Second.
Any discussion? Would you like to make a comment, Mrs. Swain? Go ahead.
Just as a point of order, generally there's no discussion on motions to table. This is not really, she's not really a voting member, so I'll leave it to you however you want to do it.
I'd still like to hear comments.
Just my job to.
Just set it with the record straight. I know. We appreciate you.
Okay, I'm Terry Swain, and I represent Fair Oak Youth Center. It is true that during the rec task force, the other rec directors had decided to play Fair Oak Youth Center. They had set up a meeting last Wednesday. We went to the meeting, and they provided us a 9-point item that we had to follow in order for us to play. And in that, several items were just not feasible. And I don't know what is going on. You know, they say we should work together. We have tried every avenue to work together, every avenue. And it's not just me. This has been happening. We've been a recreation department for 20 years. And they have never led us at the table to discuss. These boundaries were drawn in 2012. We were not asked to participate. That's absolutely unheard of. It should be in Oconee County. What they're doing is denying an entire group of kids in our area not to play. Now, some of you might think these kids will go somewhere else. These kids can't. You may have a few that will go to Westminster and Townville and play, but the majority of these kids will not travel out of our area to participate in a sport. And what they're doing is denying an entire area, and they won't let us at the table at all. I want to be recognized as a recreation center. I want to be included. We need to be included. Our kids need to be included. They are denying these kids a right to play a sport. We have the facility. Before, we didn't have the facility. But we have the facility, we have the volunteers. And for this to be tabled is just unheard of. It's time. It's past time. 22 years. And it's not just me. There have been 3 rec directors in the past, 3 years ago, 3 years before that, they did exactly the same thing to. There's only one major problem with that. These people were working at the time, didn't have the time to invest like I do. It's time to change. And I will continue. I promise you I will continue. Our kids deserve the right to play. And Mr. Hart, you know they do. Okay, he is our council person. And to table this, we need to vote. We need our boundaries now. This doesn't need to continue. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have the item list is that not something that y'all can work out together on what you don't like on? I haven't seen the list. Nobody has sent
Well, one
me the
was,
list. But what I'm saying is the list was presented and.
Mr. Root has it.
I have a copy too if you'd like it, but my point is, this letter is going to SCAP ahead of their May 9th meeting. Is it going to hurt to provide them with this letter?
No, it's not.
That's my question. Is it going, the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. If we send this letter, is that going to cause the cities to say, well, they've gone past us, they don't want to work with us anymore? That's what I'm.
They've never worked with us, okay? Every time we get ready to, we'll work a little bit. What you don't understand, 3 years ago, or back in 2012, I don't know if y'all know Tim Donald, he is president of Farm Bureau. He was in charge of, well, he was involved in Fair Oak Youth Center. They let them play, I don't know whether it was baseball or softball that particular year. Their team actually won the, whatever, the conference, or whatever they call it. The next year, they kicked us out. They kicked Fair out, just like they did this year. We had no warning, we had no discussion, we're just not going to play you anymore. And that's, the city recreation directors have to include us in the discussions. And it's time, it's past time.
So do you think that if we send this letter that they will now say, okay, you have a seat at the table like you're asking?
Well, I would certainly hope so. We've been asking this for years to sit at the table. I don't know what's going to change their mind. This has been happening, in years past. It's just, it can't be with my personality. It would have to be with Tim Donald. It would have to be with Frank Abels. And you could just go on and on and on for 22 years. We've been receiving county funds since 2006. So we are a county recreation department. But we can't sit with the cities and decide what we're going to do as a group, which is really a shame, I think.
Could you tell me a little bit about what the 9 points, the ones that y'all did not think were feasible?
Well, there's quite a few. We have to present that to the board first. I really don't want this to go any further. I don't want to take this any further than here. I want to settle everything in here. You could look at Mr. Root's points.
I'll provide them with copies. I've got the copies, so
Okay.
I'll provide them with copies. That's not an issue. If you want, as long as you're okay with the letter, I'm okay with the letter. The letter seems to me to serve another purpose. It's going to SCAP just to show our support that, we'd like FYOC to grow like all the other programs.
Yes. I would like the letter. So,
Okay.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, I think we've made a great commitment on this council for Fair Oak Youth Center and the sports that they provide. And again, I've sat up here and made several statements about how great the youth center is and what it does for all of Oconee County. There's several kids that play out there, but we're living in a city recreation world, and we're trying to find a way to work together. And this kind of starts back undoing it because they're the ones that make the boundaries. It's not us. And that's the one thing that I'm trying to understand here is I've met with everybody on all sides of it. My motion to table is not against the Fair Oak Youth Center. if I was against the Fair Oak Youth Center, I wouldn't push so hard for the things that y'all do down there. My motion to table is to allow this to work itself out in the correct manner, which is through all rec departments, including Fair Oak Youth Center, all directors, including Fair Oak Youth Center's director, as we move forward with this. From my understanding, I haven't heard from, Fair Oak, but there were several things in the meeting that went great, and there were some things that y'all had some questions on that y'all left. And, for the little bit I know about the 9-point items, I think several of those things need to be discussed on and changed because they're not exactly clear as to what they are. They're very vague, and that's some of the things that we need to get up. But not once has any of those rec directors, and I've spoke to every single one of them, said that they do not want Fair Oak Youth Center in this league. Not once.
Then why did they refuse to play us?
In softball and baseball?
No, they back in February, they said they're not going to play us in anything.
I think we all understand the circumstances resolving that area, that we can't, the way that was handled, the position and the way that they took on that with that, they're just not going to take that. Now, again, we've worked to understand the communication that y'all need with them. Again, I understand. That's why I fought so hard. I've spent so many time on this. But yes, I have never known there to ever be an issue with Fair Oak playing anywhere, anytime. The softball, baseball stuff, that's a whole nother world. And you do a little bit of research, this is not the only county that the
I'm
Dixie
not
issue
here to
is.
talk about baseball, softball.
But that's
I'm here to talk
resulted
about
in-
boundaries to play in our own county, to play our own county teams.
Right.
Which right now, we are not going to, unless we follow these 9 items that they came up with. And they're all against, in my opinion, Fair Oak. Now, our board's going to decide what to do with that. But you're talking about cooperation. In 2012, they redrew boundary lines. Why wasn't Fair Oak included in that? That's my question.
Then I don't know the answer
I don't
to
know
that.
the answer either. But we're always left out. And anytime there's a problem, we're not going to play you anymore.
Right,
It seems that's what they say.
right.
So something has to change. Mr. Davis, on the rec task force, I think all the rec directors need to get together and set rules for everybody and redraw boundary lines.
Right.
But that's my opinion.
Well, and I have made that same statement to those rec directors about is there rules? Is there, I hear the, common sense. Is there rules that, y'all follow to go by? And what are those rules? So there's a clear explanation of if what is a violation and how is that violation handled?
But it's got to be for everyone,
But
not
there's a
just for
lot of
one.
stuff, there's a lot of wonderful stuff that y'all have already accomplished.
And we're going to do a lot more. We're going to do a lot more. We're growing in our area, and we're not being recognized in recreation.
I think you're
Now,
totally being
you can go back,
recognized.
you can use Facebook, you can use anything you want, but this has happened in the past too. And Facebook wasn't there back then. But it continues, and we've got to stop it now. It's time. It's 2018. We have to move forward.
But even if you have boundaries, doesn't mean that they have to play you either. That's what I'm saying.
That is
This has
true.
got to work together.
That is true.
We have got to find common ground to work together. We can't bicker with each other on
But they're
something like this. We've
using the
got-
boundary issue to shut us out.
Can I
That's what you've got to
interject
understand.
here real quick? Mr. Root, when you talked to Miss Anthony, from what I gathered, what you were saying, did she welcome this letter or did she discourage you from sending it?
Neither. She said, go ahead and send it.
All
We'll see
right,
what
so go ahead and
happens."
send it and see what happens. Okay.
But this only applies, the boundary lines only apply to postseason play, which is important. I'm not saying that's not important because it's very important. The things that I really want to work toward and the things that we've had, I don't know how many phone conversations we've had, is to get y'all back to the table in all the sports. And where there's not a reason, yes, we do need approval for y'all to be able to be playing in softball. We do need an approval for that. That approval has been granted from other areas that I have seen, as long as there are certain guidelines and rules followed. But when this happens, this is superseding what y'all are trying to work on as a communication, and that's the reason why I tabled it, to allow y'all to we have to bring it up at the next meeting.
Well,
When's
we
your
can
next
bring it up.
meeting?
We can continue to bring it up. I want it brought forward. We have to have our boundaries in order to be recognized as a recreation center. We have to. We are the southern end of the county, and we're not recognized at all. In fact, Anderson County has our borders,
Has your what?
our borders, our boundary.
You talking about where Townville is?
Yes,
From their cities?
yes.
Right.
We're Oconee County. We're not Anderson.
So if we send this letter and you get the boundaries, are we done? Have we
Well, I think we
as
all
county
need to work
council,
together
resolve this
to
issue?
ensure we have our boundaries. Fair Oak Youth Center, Fair Oak Elementary is the only boundary that Fair Oak Youth Center wants. We're talking about one elementary school in this entire county. I don't think that's unreasonable, but we haven't been allowed to even voice our concerns.
I don't disagree with you that it's not unreasonable, but I don't have oversight. We don't have oversight over the municipalities. We cannot control
I understand.
the boundary lines.
But you are county, and we're county, and our building is county-owned. Our recreation center is county-owned. So it is a county problem. We have kids that are being taken from Oconee County over to Anderson County. That is a county problem.
I mean, we support y'all
Yes, you do.
more than we do a lot of the other organizations out there. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, y'all have done a phenomenal job. I mean, I can't say enough great things about what you do. I'm just saying that, I mean, obviously it's been aired out in public session, so it's out there now. But this hinders what y'all are trying to accomplish as rec directors together. It doesn't help this. Do I think Fair Oak Youth Center belongs in Oconee County? Yes, but I'm not the territory boundary.
Then we need to talk together. But this needs to go forward. We need to sit down together. So far, we have not talked. Every time we get together, we're presented a nine item or something else. You have to abide by these. This is not the way you cooperate.
And I, like most of the other people up here, have not seen this 9-point item, so I don't know if it's reasonable or not. I'll take your word for it that it's unreasonable,
There are some, but the majority no.
but I haven't seen it. You're asking us to vote to send a letter to an organization that we
That doesn't have
no-
anything to do with that 9 point. Nothing.
When you left there, they stated that if the 9-point items were, approved, that y'all would play, correct?
That's what they said. But it was all toward, if Fair Oak breaks one rule, we're out. They're going to throw us out again. Same thing.
That's in that list. Well, and that's kind of, to me, after so you have not brought that letter forth to your board yet?
We have sent it by email, yes.
Okay.
And we will have a board hearing on it.
Because to me, the way I would handle it is those items that I like, hey, it's easy. The ones that I question, those are the ones that I sent back. And we work together to say, hey, listen, you said one
We
rule?
intend to.
So-
That's not the point. Our point here is trying to get these boundaries here and get recognized in Oconee County as a rec center.
Okay,
Did you share this?
I just sent it to
Did you share this letter in Wednesday's meeting with the other rec directors to let them know?
I
what
didn't
you-
have it then, no. No. I told them in February that I would like to have boundaries.
Right. Have any of y'all met with your rec directors, Wayne, your city? And have you met with your rec director and talked to him on it?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the pool, but I got an uphill fight there.
I don't know, Mr. Davis, if you know, you had recommended in the rec task force that maybe it would be nice if these rec directors, before they sent something out like this, would run it by their city council and their mayors. I don't know, looking at this, if that was actually done. And it probably needs to be checked on.
I agree with that.
Okay, well, we still have the question of the letter, to send or not to send, so we can just, if
Actually,
you
a
want
motion
it,
to
we
table
can
on the
just
floor.
vote on it.
Could I say one more thing, Madam Chair? If we send this letter and it causes these negotiations to either come to an impasse or totally disintegrate, are you going to come back up here and ask us to do something else?
I don't know. It depends on what happens.
Because I think there's risk that if we send this letter, it will cause that. And so that's what I'm saying is, you're
I
asking.
don't think with SCAP it's going to cause that.
I'm
SCAP,
worried
I
about the
want SCAP to
municipalities.
recognize we have boundaries.
I'm worried about the municipalities.
I don't,
I represent Seneca up here, along with the rest of Oconee County. And I'm concerned, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but if we send something trying to go around them, around the process, and it causes what I think there's risk of it causing, I don't want to say, I told you so, and then you say, well, let's go to Plan B, when I said Plan A is not a good idea. But if this will work, if this will end this, if you have confidence that it will,
I think it will with SCAP. Yes, with SCAP.
But will it cause a problem with the municipalities that have all signed
I
at the
can't answer
bottom
that.
of this letter?
I
At the bottom
can't,
of
I don't
these
even know if the
conditions?
municipalities are aware, other than the rec directors, what exactly is going on.
I have serious hesitations about this. I think that it's going to cause problems,
It is going to cause problems.
and
I think it as a youth center, we have to have it. We have to have it to continue. We have to have it for the southern end. You're denying 250 kids
Not-
right now,
not
and
denying.
we are adding every day.
I am not denying 250 kids to play at all. At all.
The rec directors have already said we are not going to play you
That is.
unless these 9
That-
points are
That
agreed to.
occurred in February, and from my understanding, we're back to the table. I'm just seeing this for the first time. Most of this stuff on here is pretty simple. I see a few things. If any of the rules are broken by Fair Oak, we no longer, okay, that there needs to be some adjustment there. Completely understand that. You're going, I'm sure everybody breaks a rule every now and again in there.
If you drive a car, you break a rule.
Suggest, okay, I disagree with that statement based on what y'all have on there from the volunteer organization. Contingent on leagues allowing Fair Oak to play, no problem. The agreement covers SCAP. I mean, there's a few things in there that I will agree that are a little bit clarification. No affiliation with travel teams. There's no, what
We
does
agree
that
with that.
mean? Okay? But I'm just telling you that if we work together, we're gonna get this solved. You can't.
What about boundaries?
This doesn't,
What about boundaries?
we don't control the boundaries, okay? What if you have boundaries, this Fair Oak Youth Center, and we have to live by those boundaries? What happens if you don't have enough kids within that boundary to actually field teams? What happens in a world to where we have to go back to when I was a kid, you lived in a certain place and you had to play there? You didn't have the choice. We live currently in a county where anybody can play anywhere they want to go.
And I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, and we also live in a place to where Fair Oak Youth Center is flourishing. I understand, I'm just saying this is not the letter that we need to send up here. I just think it takes you back to where we were at after the last meeting.
I think it takes us back 10 years to where we started, or 20 years to where we started.
I state my motion to table until we can talk, and I think you were my second.
Since we went outside the motion being non-debatable, since Mr. Davis restated it, could you restate your second, if that's what you want to do, Mr. Kane?
I'll second that.
It'll just be up for a vote.
And it is not against Fair Oak Youth Center. avidly fought to ensure Farragut Youth Center and all their kids out there play. I just have to have more information. I mean, I just now saw that letter.
You're head of
She
the rec
has it.
task force, Mr. Davis. You should have had that if they presented that to us in the meeting.
That's
Rick
not-
Lacy presented that to us in the meeting, along with all the other rec directors.
That's
We
not
will
what
let
the
Fair
text
Oak play under these 9 agreements, 9 points. We walked in there thinking, okay, we're going to make a discussion. Everything's going to be good. I walk out of there with nine things that we have to follow or we're out. You should have been presented that, and you weren't. So you were left out too, just like we are. We have the same problem every time we meet.
Piano lessons.
The motion to table is on the floor for a vote.
The motion to table?
Yeah, this was on the floor for a vote, if you want to call that vote.
I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you need this letter? And do you not feel it's going to jeopardize any future?
It
No,
will
we
be-
need this letter.
I'm not
I'm
asking
sorry,
you.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I would like this letter sent on behalf of all the kids at Fair Oak Youth Center.
Okay. So we're considering a motion to table. Any other discussion about this? All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Okay, so now we're going to vote on sending this letter to SCAP. And I'm going to read it because it's fairly benign. This letter is written in support of the Fair Oak Youth Center's effort to establish recognized boundaries with South Carolina athletic programs, South Carolina Association of Recreation and Parks. Please note that in addition to the municipalities located within the county, the Fair Oak Youth Center also receives Oconee County funding to support its youth recreation programs. By majority vote, the Oconee County Council endorses the Fair Oak Youth Center having recreational boundaries consistent with the territorial boundaries of the Fair Oak Elementary School attendance area so that its recreation programs may flourish. Oconee County appreciates your efforts in this regard. That's all the letter says.
That's good.
Okay. All in favor of providing FYOC with this letter to SCAP? All in favor?
You need a
Sorry,
motion.
we need a motion. and a
Oh,
second.
sorry, motion to send this letter to SCAP on behalf of FYOC.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, this is not against Fair Oak Youth Center, kids. It is not in anything about this. This is not the way to handle the territory boundary issues moving forward. I just disagree with that. And it's not, I mean, I have sat here and fought for Fair Oak Youth Center through the Oakway Intermediate School, all the programs. I am a sponsor of those teams because I believe in those kids and I believe in the opportunity. I believe in the volunteers that are there, the coaches, the director. My vote is not against any of that.
I think this is the only way we can get at the table, Mr. Davis. A level table. That's all we ask. We only ask to be included in discussions, not presented ultimatums when we walk in, or 9-point items that we have to follow.
This isn't going to
We need to be
that.
included. Thank you, Council.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Swain, I have to agree with Mr. Davis. You have on here signatures from Seneca Rec, Walhalla Rec, Westminster Rec, Townville Rec, and Salem Recreation. And if, I think it's clear it's going to pass. I hope the letter does resolve it.
I do
But-
too.
But if it makes things worse, you can't say, I didn't warn you, okay? And I want it to resolve it. I do not feel that this should be that complicated. I agree with you.
I don't
This
either.
is absurd.
But it's been happening,
I know.
Mr. Kane, for at least 20 years. It's got to stop. We have to have our own boundaries to be recognized as a recreation center.
Well, we'll see if the letter fixes it or makes it worse. And I hope it fixes it, but I'm not in favor of sending it because I don't think it's going to fix it. I do think it's going to make
Well,
it
I'm
worse.
hoping for the best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A few seconds ago, I tongue-in-cheek made a comment about piano lessons, and that's why I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around this whole issue, because my child was always in private piano lessons, private horseback riding lessons, private dance lessons. We never did any kind of recreation type sports. So I just, I'm totally perplexed about all this. But I still think that when I read this letter, all I read that it's saying is that we're bringing to SCAP's attention that there is another recreation program in Oconee County. I think that's all we're doing here.
Yes.
And that being the case, I have no problem sending it. I hope people don't take it the wrong way, but after what I've seen, what's been going on, I won't be surprised if it does. But, I hope I don't see it resolving the issue, but I hope it helps call attention to the fact that there's more than just municipality rec programs in Oconee County.
Madam Chair, I would be in favor of the letter endorsing Fair Oak Youth Center if we remove recreation boundaries consistent with the territorial boundaries of Fair Oak Elementary School attendance area. That's a motion to amend, is that correct?
I'll second the motion to amend.
The last paragraph would read, Oconee County endorses the Fair Oak Youth Center having recreational boundaries.
No, being a recreational, I guess if you read the SCAP or you read the Dixie, it'd be a recreation territory within a boundary which is allowed through league rules to exist. It's not a gentleman's agreement. It is the ability to exist in there that has to be worked out through the cities. So it would be, we're endorsing the Fair Oak Youth Center to provide recreation offerings in Oconee County. That's what I would like that to state.
You're okay with how it's worded? right
Yes,
now?
I am.
Okay, well,
This right up here, right? The way, with the boundaries.
okay, so you're okay with the letter the way it's written?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I've lost track of where we were.
I had a motion to amend in a second.
Yeah, need a vote on Mr. Davis's motion to amend.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Okay. So we're back to voting on sending the letter. Are we okay with the discussion, or is there any other comments? Okay, all in favor of sending the letter? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, so we're clear, I'd given two versions of the letter. One had all council signatures. We're going to.
And I just signed the one with my name on it. Good luck.
Thank you. Could I also have a copy of that, please?
I'm sure we'll get your copies.
Thank you.
Do you want it signed? Okay. Board and commission appointments. Building Codes Appeal Board.
Madam Chair, I bring forward the final piece to the puzzle on Building a Codes Appeal Board. Mr. John Samuel Sandifer goes by Sam Sandifer. A motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Excuse me.
He is located in District 1, but he will be an at-large
Large.
member
Okay.
or could serve as either if needed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. No unfinished business, or is there any unfinished business?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
This is to you, Mr. Root. I run into one of the sewer people today on the committee, and they asked me where we was at with the deed to that project, that they were waiting on it.
I gave the proposed transfer agreement to Larry Brandt approximately 2 months ago. I know Mr. Brandt was in a car wreck. He's had some trials also. I haven't heard back from him as to exactly where it stands right now, but I haven't received any revisions. I know he did say he passed it along to his board, or at least perhaps to Mr. Eleazar. I'm not sure, but the ball is in their court. I'm waiting to hear what he wanted to change with the agreement so I can present it to you.
But he told me that the ball was in our court, they was waiting on it to get back.
He's mistaken.
Okay, thank you.
Any new business? County Council Committee reports, Mr. Davis, please.
We had a Recreation Review Task Force, April 17th. We had all rec directors in attendance on there. We had a lot of discussions about the ongoing issues that we're having in here. And one of the first things that I stated is I appreciate everybody actually coming into a public setting for being willing to talk about this, and it actually shows what they are trying to accomplish and are truly trying to provide the best recreation possible. You know, and I stated on here that we're here today for our children, to provide recreation and opportunities for them to be successful. We allowed each of the recreation representatives to speak for 5 minutes, and that was Fair Oak Youth Center led off, Westminster, Seneca, Walhalla, and Salem. And there were several lengthy discussions up into the 2-hour time frame as we kind of aired a lot of stuff out. And I asked the question to all the rec directors if they would allow their teams to play Fair Oak Youth Center in sports, as what was originally on there before this was on there. All recreation owners, directors agreed to allow their teams to play Fair Oak and work on other issues moving forward. So they did not have the issues that came out there. They actually set a meeting up at that time, at that meeting with all rec directors, and invited Fair Oak Youth Center, which was held last Wednesday. That was not a public meeting. That was a meeting of rec directors, and that was on April 25th of 2018. The next meeting scheduled with us, this says Tuesday, April 17th, but it's actually May 17th. Is that correct, Miss? No. I don't need that in my minutes on here, stated on there. So we have our next meeting, I believe that's again in, we don't have one scheduled. We have June the 19th is the one on the schedule right now at 3 o'clock. It's when our next meeting is. Sorry, I had the wrong date in the minutes on there. My apologies on that. And that's what we had.
Okay. Budget Finance, it's me. The Budget Committee met April 17th. The school district presented their budget to council. For FY 2018-2019, they have $1 million shortfall due mostly to the addition of personnel. They will cover the shortfall with funds from their reserves. If you recall, last fiscal year after reassessment, or rather the current fiscal year, after reassessment, the SDOC mill came in kind of low, leading to a shortfall of $2 million. And council approved a millage increase at that time, so they were not asking for a millage increase again, and they were okay with using their reserves to cover their shortfall in the budget. Mr. Mulder then presented his preliminary budget figures. Included in the budget are an additional fire truck, 3 sheriff positions, and 5 fire personnel. Council was asked to consider additions to the budget. Corridor planning and comprehensive plan rewrite for $114,000 will be funded from the current year fund balance as a one-time expense. Council is considering SROs to complete the school district's program as a high priority item, as well as the High Falls bathroom upgrades and the new magistrate office. Our next budget meeting is May 8th and will include the Tri-County Tech budget presentation. Transportation, Mr. Hart.
Transportation Committee met April the 24th, 2018, approximately 5 o'clock. Mr. Kyle Reed of the Road and Bridge Department was our speaker, and he updated us on the Savannah Drive, which is private road 3050. It wants to be entered into our rudimentary road. It is 2,300 feet long. It'll cost approximately $30,000. We have all signatures but one for a 50-foot right-of-way. Next update was Linhart Road. This road is to be closed at the southeast end near the old Walhalla Highway. A cul-de-sac will be built there, and after it was surveyed, they found that they needed more right-of-way, and Mr. Reed says that he'll be contacting the owners next week to pick up that right-of-way. Next was the grading at Golden Corner Commercial Park near Fairplay. Mr. Reed said it would probably be 3 more weeks for it to be completed, that the weather had caused numerous delays. Update on the Treasurer's Office new drive. Just a few more weeks for the grading and the gravel base to be set in place. If you came in by the library, you've seen it as you came in. Update on the county road acceptance policy. This is sort of a work in progress. As we find out things that are hampering or hurting the contractors as far as moving forward, we're trying to modify those. Plus, we're talking with the fire department and other departments if there's anything in these rules that they think should be added to benefit and modify this policy. That's it, Madam.
Well, thank you. Next, we need to recess to executive session. Number 1, to discuss and receive legal advice in relation to an attorney fee agreement for the opioid litigation. And number 2, to discuss an administrator, personnel, and employment contract matter.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may have a motion to direct the county attorney to finalize negotiations of the opioid litigation fee agreement with the Harrison White litigation group as discussed for execution by the county council chair.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'd like to make a motion to accept Mr. Mulder's resignation and seek the appointment of an interim in his place,
And based on the conditions as
based on the conditions as discussed in executive session.
Make motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank Mr. Mulder for his years of service. You've been the best administrator that this county has ever had, without question. And it's been an absolute pleasure for me to work with you. And I hate to see you go, but I do understand the environment. And I know what you've been going through, and I wish you the absolute best in your future endeavors. And I know you're going to do an excellent job wherever you end up.
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to echo Mr. Kane's statements and thank you for what you've done for this county. What you brought into it, your family. Thank you. And it's sometimes difficult to do the job that you do on a daily basis. And your time is to be well committed. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you too, and I will say this, I will miss our budget meetings.
How about if I stick around at least until next Monday?
I actually meant the ones where you and I would get together and play with the numbers.
Next Monday. We'll have one last one.
Okay, sounds good to me. Fair enough. Anybody else?
And Oconee County is better because of your leadership.
I hope so.
It is.
He's still going to be around. We can still pester him when we need to.
I'll still have the same phone number, so you can still reach me.
We can still call you. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, motion to adjourn then.
You didn't take a vote on it.
Oh, we were supposed to vote on this?
Please.
Sorry. Okay. All in favor then? Aye. Are we okay now to adjourn?
I'm just
Make
trying to
motion
get
to adjourn.
this.
Just trying to get it done right.
That's what the rules are.
Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.